Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this session this afternoon. It's great to see there's actually quite a lot of non-tech tracks this week at a tech event, so that's good. It's slightly disappointing that we seem to be having to have these conversations. I'd rather not have this conversation, but it is important. I'm Steph Martin. I'm a data solution architect. I'm a SQL Bits and Data Relay Committee member. I'm a part-time master's student. I have an 18-acre smallholding in rural Scotland, and I have 5 cats. And what I missed off the slide is I'm picking up a 13-week-old puppy on Monday. So there's a lot going on. Disclaimer, this is my personal story. I'm not a mental health professional. I don't have any training in that whatsoever. I'm happy to talk to you, but I cannot give you advice. I don't have time to learn how to do another career with everything else I have going on already. But we do have an on-site psych, and her details I will share with you at the end of the session. If there's anything triggering and you feel like you need to get up and leave, then please do so. I will not be offended. You can sit and bawl your eyes out if you'd rather. I don't mind that either. I might join you. So what we're going to look at today, why here, why now? Why are we having this conversation? Why am I standing up here? And why are you sitting and listening to me ramble about all my woes? We'll look at what burnout is, the definition, a proper definition, and some of the symptoms, certainly the symptoms that I identified the most with. How did I get here and how did I recover? And that is not an error on the animation, because actually part of recovering was figuring out how I'd got there in the first place. So those two things kind of go hand in hand. And it's not a nice, smooth curve down and back up again. There's a lot of bumps along the way. With the benefit of hindsight, what I now know triggered it for me, I will stop it happening again. That might not apply to you, but it might be. And so if it helps one person in the room, then I'm kind of happy. And even if this doesn't apply in that way, hopefully it will help you to find your aha moment. And then lastly, I've just got some suggestions for how you can take care of yourself, and I've got some resources that I can share that hopefully will be useful to you. So why here and why now? So I'm probably not going to cry. I'm probably not going to get 10 minutes into this presentation and fail on that one. This time last year, I was about to start a new job. I'd left a job that I hated, and it nearly destroyed me. It took my mental health to lows that I didn't know existed. And I very nearly walked out of a 25-year career in tech and just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I had a long chat with somebody 2 years ago at SQL Bits and said, I'm going to go work in a garden centre. And they said, don't do that, you'll hate it because you won't be able to organise people. So I stayed, I stuck it out, and I'm glad I did. So just over a year ago, I was obviously having job interviews. And being that, you know, I'm confident and I know what I'm talking about, even though I don't, because I'm absolutely terrified. And I got an interview that was going quite well, I thought. I'd managed to answer most of the tech stuff and surprised myself somewhat, and I was feeling pretty good. And then I got a question that completely threw me. What makes you stressed? Now, given the position I was in at the time, I was furious. It was like, how dare you ask me a personal mental health question? I don't know you, and that's something that I'm not prepared to share with you. I gave them an answer, and I'll tell you what that was later, and they said, well, that's a cop-out. And I was furious. It's like, not only have you asked me an inappropriate question, but then you failed to accept what I've given you as an answer. And I kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, actually, I'm kind of happy for that person, because they've clearly no idea what it's like to have a mental health problem. And then I was angry again, because this person was a leader. And it's like, I would not work for that person. If you can't even accept an answer that you're given, how would your team ever come to you with a problem? How would you ever be able to treat them? And it annoyed me so much that I thought, we still need to be having this conversation. You know, it's sad, but we have leaders who just don't get it. And there's a lot of people that know me here. I've been around the data platform community for well over a decade, more like 15 years. I ran a user group for 10 years. I've got friends that are sat here in front of me, and that's really not helping. So thank you for all being here for support, but yeah. And I think there'll be a lot of surprised faces when we get to the end of this, that actually if it can happen to me, that's pretty scary. Because I would have said, that's never going to happen to me. You know, it's only work, right? I'm not going to let it get to me that badly. So why are you here? Somebody laugh, come on. We're going to have a little bit of lightheartedness. I mean, it's a fairly depressing subject. So for you, maybe you're thinking, there's something not right. I'm not sure if I need to talk to someone. I'm not sure if some of the things I'm feeling might be burnout. I would say if you're thinking about whether you need to talk to someone, just do it. I think we have a problem in the UK where we still think therapy's a thing for the really badly ill, and it's not. It should be a maintenance thing. Maybe you're here for someone else. Maybe there's a colleague that you work with that suddenly is not behaving how you expect them to, that is not behaving how they have previously, and you're worried there's something wrong, but you don't know how to help them because they can't tell you what's wrong. Or maybe it's a friend or a family member that's saying that they're unhappy, and you don't know how to help them. And I'll stop crying for this one because I'm going to be angry now. Maybe there's managers in the team, in the room, and I sincerely hope there are or watching online, because I really hope that managers are listening to this. It's important. In 1977, Milton Friedman, who was an economist, said that the only social responsibility that a business has is to make money. Now, I'm quite happy to sit in the bar tonight and talk to you about business ethics, but it's more. They do have a responsibility to make money because they have a responsibility to the economic welfare of their team and their employees. But it's so much more than that. Management is not benign and it is not neutral. There is a hell of a lot of control that you have as a manager over the well-being of your team. And we're not seeing enough people taking care of their team. So I'm here because I'm angry, and I think it's a message that needs to be shared. So what's burnout? So this is a World Health Organization definition. It's a thing, it really exists. It's identified in their international classification of diseases. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. They are very clear on this being a workplace issue. So all of those things that I said at the beginning about SQL bits, about data relay, about having a farm, about having a job, about studying part-time, that's not burnout, that's me being busy. That's no different to you running around every evening and weekend taking your kids to classes or anything like that. That's just busy lives. That's not burnout. Burnout happens in an occupational context. It's the symptoms I'll come on to, but the World Health Organization talks about negativism and cynicism about your job, disconnection, and just it's a workplace problem. And unfortunately, it spills into our personal lives as well, because we don't switch our laptops off at 5:30, walk away and go, oh, I'm happy again now, everything's good with the world, because we're thinking about what's happening tomorrow. How many weekends are being lost because Sundays are a write-off because you know what's coming on Monday? So what are the symptoms? These are the ones I had, and it's kind of, some of them sound quite benign, and I want you to also know that these are also symptoms of stress and depression. So if you're looking at this going, yeah, I feel like that, it's not necessarily burnout, okay? But I would still say if you're feeling a couple of or more of these, then maybe do think about going and talking to Tracy downstairs or to somebody else. So feeling tired or drained most of the time. This is not a week at SQL Bits and burning the candle at both ends, tired. This is not kids waking you up in the middle of the night, tired. This is I could go to bed for 15 hours and still wake up feeling like I've run a marathon and been through a 12-round boxing match. I'm bone tired. I cannot get out of bed. I need a crowbar to get out of bed. And especially if, like me, you're a morning person, for me, the alarm goes off. I'm awake before the alarm and I'm up. And I'm sitting there and I'm snooze, snooze, snooze. I cannot get out of bed. I actually roll out of bed and hit the floor and then try to stand up because it's just hard. Feeling detached or alone. And a lot of people will put this down to post-COVID working from home. It's not. I worked from home before COVID, I'm happy on my own. My husband used to be away 6 months of the year. I would get really annoyed when people would call me when he was away to make sure I was okay. It's like, yes, I'm enjoying the peace and quiet. Love my husband to pieces, but I can get stuff done. I was never lonely, but I could be lonely standing downstairs at Sequel in a room full of 1,000 people, because I'm the only person that feels like this. You know, that's how it feels. You feel like you're the only one that this is happening to. A cynical or negative outlook. I mean, I think we're all fairly cynical. I certainly am. I always have been. I did a degree in politics, and that was that. And negative. And this is, again, it's more than just, oh, look, we're doing another organisational restructure because the ego at the top wants more people to work for him. And it is invariably a him in our industry. It's more than that. It's being defensive. It's knowing that when you go into a meeting, you're already going to get annoyed with someone. It's already thinking the worst is going to happen before you've even got there. And it's to the point where it's actually quite unhealthy. You know, it's not having a laugh about, oh, what's going to go wrong today. It's worse than that. And this is why it's so hard to explain, because these things, we have these things naturally, all of us do, and they come and go. So how do you know when it's a problem? Procrastinating is a classic example. Some people could make an Olympic sport out of procrastinating. If that's you, and you're sitting there saying, I'm procrastinating, I must be burnout, well, no, because if that's just how you are naturally, then it's fine. I'm not. I'm the annoying child that did their homework the day they got it. I'm the one that's stressing that I have a deadline in 2 weeks' time and I haven't finished my essay yet because I like to have at least a week's buffer before it's due in. I don't procrastinate. And I got really good at it, really good, because stuff's hard. I'm tired, I'm drained, no one understands what I'm trying to achieve, and no one cares what I'm trying to achieve anyway. Where should we come on to lack of personal achievement? Whatever I do, no one's really interested, no one cares, so what is even the point? I can't be bothered. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it in my calendar, I'll block some time out tomorrow morning, and I'll sit and get this done, because I'll have a fresh head, I'll get a good night's sleep and an early night. And the next morning comes, and it's, oh, I'll just go and do that instead. I'll go and do something else. I was writing this slide deck. You'll notice some of the pictures. This is the pictures from around my farm. And I sat down to write the words for my slide deck, and I thought, I want to give it some life. I want to give it something that people will look at and remember. I spent 4 hours walking around the farm taking pictures so that I didn't have to do the words. And the feelings of the personal accomplishment, you know, my degree is split into modules of 6 months, and you pass the module. And it's like, I've minimized it. You know, all of this stuff's wrong. Oh, I just got a distinction in that module. Yeah, but that doesn't matter, right? That's I don't get any joy out of that, because look at all of this other stuff that I can't do. And then when we come on to the I can't do, we're talking about self-doubt. And this isn't imposter syndrome. And I will talk a bit about imposter syndrome later. This is to a whole new level. And this is the bit that's likely to trigger me, because this is so hard for your loved ones. For my husband having to sit there and deal with me beating myself up every 5 minutes over silly things, right? I wanted to be a chef when I was a kid. I cut my finger chopping carrots. Actually, it was onions, that's what, hence the tears. Chopping onions. And, oh, I can't even do that. I mean, God, useless. I can't even chop an onion up anymore. And I'm tired because I'm not sleeping. Can't even do the basic human function of sleeping. How rubbish am I? And these things then get worse, because they feed off each other, and it's like this giant tornado with shit, excuse my language, that gets sucked up to the point where you just can't do anything. And it's completely and utterly overwhelmed. And I don't want anybody in this room to get to that bottom point. Okay, that's why it's so important that we have this conversation. And I'm just blaming my psych, because I was fine till she walked in the room and then I cried. She thinks that's unfair. Yeah, I did. I went off before you got here, Trace. But I don't, you know, that feeling of being overwhelmed, okay, I'm very good normally. I'm doing a terrible job of this right now, but I'm very good at putting my mask on. When I go to work, when I'm having my job interviews, when I'm at Sequel Bits and I'm looking after my amazing team of helpers, I'm forthright, I think you'd agree. Yeah? A few nods from my team, yeah? But I'm generally, I think, approachable and happy to try to help them when they come to me. And then when no one's looking, that mask comes off. And I was coming off Teams calls and sitting in the corner of my room bawling my eyes out. And when you look back and you think, how did you not think at that point there was something wrong? How did it get to the point where it was every Teams call that you were bawling your eyes out? Because it happened actually quite fast. It took me about 3 months to go from top to bottom. Really fast. I don't know if that is average or uncommonly fast. Yeah, so my tears monster over there is telling me that this is about right for the industry, and it's very, very hard to spot it. And that's why I want to talk about it today, because I do want to make sure that we can get you to talk to somebody like Trace before I did. So those are the symptoms, some of them. And there are more, and these symptoms are listed by the Mental Health Organisation, the Mental Health UK, who did a report, 2024 report on burnout. It's a massive document. I will share it with you at the end. It's an interesting read. And the important thing about it is you're reading it going, yes, that's me, yep. Oh, okay, so this is a thing then. This isn't just me. So what did I do? So I called Trace, and I said, this is my brain right now. I've just a jumble of rocks. I keep dropping them on my foot, and I can't figure this out. It's just my thoughts are all over the place, and that being overwhelmed, that procrastinating, that I cannot do the simplest of tasks because I can't see it before I can't see the wood for the trees. So I wanted to go from this to this. I wanted some kind of order, and I've mostly got there. You know, I've still got the odd rock that jumps out and bites me, that's in the wrong place, it's the wrong shape, it's upside down or whatever else. But this is my logical brain. Okay, so I've now got to the point where I can say, logically, really, are you really rubbish because you cut your finger chopping a carrot? Really? Well, you're just being a bit silly, aren't you? And I'm quite lucky that Trace doesn't really let me get away with that kind of nonsense. She just looks. She doesn't even have to say anything, she just looks at me. And I'm like, I'm being dumb, aren't I? She's like, engage your logical brain, Steph. So, yeah, it's I'm probably being unreasonable. So I have got to this point. I have now got to the point where, for the most part, I can put things into boxes and say, do you know what? It's not worth it. And actually, it's not me. So, how did I get to that point? So I've got to the bottom, I've asked for help, I've got part way up, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell has gone wrong, how I have got to that point in the first place. So I mentioned this was related to my job, right? So the job that I had, we had this structured onboarding process where we were told, this is how we will help you to do your job. We will make you able to do the best thing you can do. We will help you to grow. There's no rush, okay? There's no pressure for you to be able to perform this role. We give you a 3-month onboarding process, or 6 months, depending on who you talk to. And don't worry, because imposter syndrome is normal. It's okay for you to feel a little bit, like you don't know how to do your job, because it's a bit different here where we work. And it's okay, but you'll get there. It'll take about 4 months and you'll suddenly go, oh, actually, it's okay. And then a month later you'll go, oh, imposter syndrome again. I have a problem with this. So this shaping me into the role that they thought I should be doing, It's essentially a systematic undermining of 20 plus years of experience. I've been a customer, I've been a vendor, I've been a consultant, I know how to talk to people, I know how to design systems, I know how to get the best out of people doing that. I don't need to be told the exact words to use. Oh, and by the way, this is the way. That relies on you having a mentor who's actually not doing it just as a tick box exercise to get their next promotion. There's no rush. Yeah, did we not talk about me not having a sense of personal achievement? I'm sat on my ass for 3 months doing nothing because don't worry about it. No stress, don't stress, don't stress. It's like I haven't done anything for 3 months, and our industry moves fast. 3 months is a long time in IT to not achieve something, especially if you're like me, and I'm very achievement-driven. And imposter syndrome is not normal. Okay, I want to get that out there. It's common, okay, in our industry especially, because Microsoft, bless their hearts, keep changing shit. And just when you think you know what you're doing, it's like, oh, that's new. They've moved that, but where's that gone? How do I do this now? Why have you changed that? It's normal for us to feel a little bit like we're on the edge all the time. But when you say that something is normal, you minimize it. Because if it's normal, why am I the only person having a panic attack at 3 o'clock in the morning over it? How come everyone else can cope if it's so normal? It must just be me, right? It's just me. I'm the only person that can't cope with this. So I dislike it when people say something is normal because you're minimizing how it is affecting somebody. And that's another important message I want to get out. So I went to my manager. I was like, okay, I know it's a work problem. I know it's burnout. I know it's a work problem. I know that this whole system that I fitted into, I don't fit. You're trying to put a square peg into a round hole. I don't fit. Please, can you help me fit? And he said, call the Employee Assistance Program. Now, I don't know if you have the Employee Assistance Program at work. It's fine. But I've already got an external psych. I'm already talking to someone. What good is the Employee Assistance Program going to do? All that was passing the buck. It was a mental health issue. I don't know. Go talk to a professional. But I'm sorry, but you're my manager. You're supposed to be there to support me. You're supposed to help me to navigate my health at work. I don't expect you to fix paying my mortgage or the fact that the cows have knocked a fence over again, or any of those things, but I do expect you to help me to fit in at work. The next thing he said is it's my fault. Okay, so the organisation has some leadership principles. Learn and be curious was one, and bias for action. So I was not proactively trying to solve the problem myself, apparently. Right. I do SQL bits, I do data relay, I do my part-time master's degree. I have a degree that's not IT related, and I've got as far as a data solution architect, and no one's figured out that I don't know what I'm doing yet. Does that sound like somebody who does not have bias for action and a curious mind? Seriously, of the two things you could have thrown at me, those two? No. At that point, good. At that point, I had an aha moment, and I can remember it as clear as day. I was sat there, and I was talking to Tracy, and I went, it's not me, it's them. She said, yes. Yeah. Because she couldn't tell me that. Well, she could tell me that, but I had to know that for me. And I sat there, and I was furious. I was furious. And how dare you? How dare they do that to me? And actually, that's a really strong part of the recovery, is realizing that all of this shit that I'd been through, none of that was on me. It was being done to me. And again, I come back to this, it'll never happen to me. I'll never be gaslit. I was gaslit by a company. I was sat there and I was told everything was my fault and I needed them to help me to be a better person at my job. I was like, how dare you? How dare you? Yeah, I was absolutely spitting feathers. So yeah, it's not me, it's you. And I can't help you to believe that in yourself. You have to believe that in yourself when you get to that point. But I promise you, it's a revelation. It really is a revelation. And I really hope you get that. And if you can start working on that now, then hopefully you don't end up in that pit that I ended up in. So with that, I then said, okay, so, but still, square peg in a round hole, and your onboarding process is all process and not people. There's zero empathy, and there is zero room for maneuver. You are an individual. Everyone's an individual, and this is exactly the shape, size of an individual. This is the individual we expect you to be. So I started to look back at specifics. And some of this will surprise you, but the biggest one for me was role ambiguity. I didn't actually know what I was supposed to do. I had conflicting job descriptions. I had 4 managers in 12 months. I'm fairly certain that wasn't my fault. I don't think they quit because of me. But I didn't know what I was being measured on. How can I achieve something if you don't tell me what you're looking for in me? I don't know how to is it the number of phone calls I'm making to customers? What is it that you're judging me on? And I didn't know what I was being judged on, so all of the things that I thought I was achieving didn't count for anything, because no one actually checked what I was doing. No one actually said, oh, you've done this, now can you do that? Or you need to be able to do these things. There was none of that. And I think we live a lot with role ambiguity, and it's a bit of a standing joke of sort of, we don't actually ever do the jobs that we see that we apply for. But at least I would expect something from my manager that says, this is what I expect from you. Instead of learn and be curious and go figure it out yourself. Lack of managerial and supervisory support. Now, I don't like being micromanaged. I've managed my own time quite happily, thank you very much. Nobody put stuff in my calendar, I put stuff in my calendar. It's not about that. It's about support, not control. Okay? There was a study that was done in 2017 by Oliver Hammack of 6,000 Swiss workers, and by an overwhelming percentage, mental health was most affected by managerial and supervisory support. Being able to go to my manager with the self-confidence, the self-belief, and the self-efficacy that says, I need help to do this. Or, I think I'm quite good at that. How can you help me to do this? And this is the problem with management. Management is still seen as top-down, and it's not. It really should not be. Managers are there to support you to grow, to do the best thing that you can for you and for the company, not to judge you, malign you, and belittle you, which is what they quite often like to do. And then there was some role conflict. So the only thing that my manager did tell me was that the sales manager didn't like me because I refused to sell his shitty product. I didn't take a job as a pre-sales person. I took a job as a post-sales person because I'll be honest, I'm good at a lot of shit, but not that. I could not sell ice cream on a beach. I really couldn't. I don't want to. I hate it. And so I was told, but you haven't supported the sales team. You haven't gone out and done their sales pitches for them. It's like, no, because I don't work in sales. That wasn't the job. If you'd have told me there was a sales element to it, I would not have applied for it, and I certainly wouldn't have accepted it. But role ambiguity, you never actually told me what my job was. And it was only when I got a year in that they said, oh, by the way, you should have been doing all of these things to support sales. At which point, if I'd have known that a year earlier, I'd have said no, and I wouldn't have ended up in this mess. So that's the thing that's very specific to me, and that might not be what really hurts you at work. You might know exactly what your role is and what your goals are and what your things need to be. Or it might not bother you. But there will be something that is that tipping point for you. So I would say sort of the tips I would give to you is try to remember it's not you. And I know that is really, really hard. I know that you still will sit there and say, it's me. And I still do it now. And then I just picture Tracy's face and I think, I'm going to get a slap next time I see her. Sorry, I'm not really selling it, am I? But do talk about it, because it's really surprising that when you talk to, I mentioned something to somebody downstairs, and I won't repeat what they said back to me, but the amount of people I've spoken to today that I've said I'm talking about burnout, and they've told me that they've had mental health issues at work. It's like, I wish we were standing here saying it's not a problem. I wish that we weren't having a conversation about this because it wasn't an issue, but it is. So talk about it, because you'd be surprised what you hear back from other people. Yeah, so for those that, the benefit of the tape, 70% of people here at Sequel Bits, male and female, in any role seniority, will have experienced some of this. That's pretty shocking, to be fair. When we think that is specifically workplace related. Okay, we're not thinking about all of the other stuff that is going on in our lives, you know, around our family and our friends, you know, our finances or whatever else. This is specifically about work. Listen to your body. If you keep bursting into tears, there's probably something wrong, you know. And I'm not a crier either, normally. So you'd think I'd have noticed that probably bursting into tears after every Teams call, even, you know, if I hadn't had a falling out with somebody, you'd think that I would have noticed that was wrong. But you don't want to accept that there's something wrong. You know, it's just put the mask back on and pretend it's not happening. It's a bit like the whole of today, where I've just pretended this session was not going to happen this afternoon. So listen to your body. If you are noticing changes in the way that you can do things, then there's something that you perhaps need to look at. Manage your manager. Don't take that nonsense that they are above you and so they foretell you what to do and they are better than you. They have a different skill set. Some people are really good engineers that don't want to be managers. Some people are people and don't do engineering. Some people do both, and that's great. But don't think that your manager is better than you. They just do different things. And so tell them what you need from them for you to do your job. I had one manager many years ago, and when I first met her, she said to me, "I've no idea what you do. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but I'll tell you what my job is. My job is to be a big shit umbrella so that you can get on with yours." And she was like an umbrella, that all of the crap that came down from the top, she said, "Don't worry about that, I'll deal with that. You get on and do your job." Yeah, that's what a manager should be doing, and supporting you and lifting you. And remember, it is a journey, okay? My pile of rocks sometimes still falls over. I still drop my piles of rocks on my toes. You know, it's not going to be smooth. It's not, even when I figured out what was wrong, even when I had that moment of saying, it's not me, I still had to overcome quite a lot after that, because I still kept thinking at times that actually, yeah, I should have, it's me. I don't know how to articulate it. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Those symptoms that we talked about, there are dozens and dozens of symptoms. And actually, those symptoms don't necessarily spell burnout either. That was just me. That was how it affected me. And be kind to yourself, okay? Nobody can do everything. And, you know, when something goes wrong, try to keep it in perspective. It's not the end of the world. You know, classic IT, what's the worst that could happen? You know, let's test this in production. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah? You know, you've done something's gone not quite right. Stop beating yourself up about it. Try to have that logical brain of like, really, in the grand scheme of things, how bad is this thing that I've just done or that has just happened? And if you're a manager, share and assess your expectations, okay? Make sure that your team understand what you expect from them, because it's a lot harder to please somebody, and I say please in a way of, you know, meeting expectations, if you don't know what that is. Have an open door, you know, be honest about mental health. It's surprising the amount of managers I've spoken to that have got mental health issues or have had and don't talk to their teams about them. How do you expect your teams to talk to you and to jointly solve these issues if you don't have that open door policy? And take responsibility. Yeah, the employee assistance program can help some people, but it is not a counselling service. It might point you towards one, but it's not a counselling service, and it is not a substitute for working with your employees to make sure that you have a safe, healthy work environment. Lead with empathy, it's the same sort of thing, you know, and equity, not equality, we're not all the same. Don't treat me the same way that you treat some other member of staff, because I have different needs. Treat me as an individual, learn what I need to get the best out of me. And overall, encourage growth. You know, we're working in an industry where we don't do a 9 to 5, shut it off and just hope that everything is still running over the weekend, especially the DBAs in the room. You're not a very good DBA if you do that. It's like, it's not my problem. Production goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not my problem. I only work 9 to 5. We don't work like that. So encourage those people to grow to be the best that they can be. The resources I've got, this is the QR code to get hold of Tracy if anything that I've said today is particularly triggering. I think she's had a busy week, which again is good that people are talking, but I'm very sad that people have the need to. The Mental Health UK Burnout report is there, and also there was a session 2 years ago at Sequel Bits by Buck Woody on managing your employees' mental health. So if you're a manager or you think that you need to manage your manager, there's a whole load of really useful stuff in there. If you're in the UK, we have Mind and Samaritans. Mind are England and Wales only. Samaritans are national. And if you're not based in the UK, then actually there are quite often similar things in your own countries or through private healthcare through your organisations. I hope that you go away thinking that this wasn't a really, really depressing session. Please do think about the pictures, because I spent a lot of effort on the pictures. I'd really like the feedback. I think as an organisation like Sequel Bits, we like the feedback because it really does help us to know whether these types of sessions are useful to people. And also, when you do fill in the feedback, you get a choice of which charity that Sequel Bits will make a donation to on your behalf. And it's the charities that we have downstairs. So we have Cancer Research UK, we have Momentum Fitness, who work with children who are excluded from mainstream exercise. And guide dogs for the blind. And if you haven't gone to see the puppies yet, they'll be back tomorrow. I'm happy to take questions in the room, or I'm happy for you to come and talk to me personally afterwards. It is your choice. I've got 10 minutes, so I've got lots of time for questions. 12 months ago, I was on a holiday in Madeira because I didn't want to be in a room full of people. I couldn't be in a room full of people because it's a lonely place in a room full of people when you don't feel right in yourself. So no, 12 months ago I didn't think I'd be up here doing this. Oh, can you come up here and say that for the tape? She thinks I'm amazing. Yeah, I've got a great psych. Thanks, honey.
I think what you've done in the last 18 months is awesome and amazing, and there is so much of what Steph has done in its entirety or in bits that just about everybody in this building right now could benefit from. And I'm very, very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? So when I had my aha moment, what changed in me that made me then say, right, okay, now I'm going to get better? So.
Yeah,
and did I change jobs? I did. And actually the important thing for me, because I'm quite achievement driven, was right, I'm going to make a decision and I'm going to do something. And having spoken to my manager, and this isn't right for everybody, but I spoke to my manager and you saw the response. That's your fault. We're not changing, you're changing. I could not, if you can't meet me halfway, I can't work for you. So for me, I had to change jobs. And that's when I had the interviews. And that's then when I had the what makes you stressed question. My answer actually to that was not having enough to do. And I got told that's a cop-out. Because actually burnout commonly is seen as having too much. You know, we're stressed, we haven't got enough hours in the day, we've got all this stuff. Well, yeah, but for me, my brain was doing 10 times as much work and I was achieving absolutely nothing. I was, you know, going round in circles like a pedalo with one wheel. I don't even know if that's the thing, is it? It is now. So yeah, for me, I made a decision. I handed my notice in. I actually gave myself a deadline and I went to Madeira and I said, this was January, I said, if I have not got another job by the time I go on holiday, I'm quitting. And I don't care if I have a job to come back to because I will not do any more of it. And I'd got another job before I went on holiday. But I gave myself, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Do I find it easier as time goes to manage it? Yeah, definitely. I can spot things a lot easier. And my logic brain, who sat in the corner, my logic brain definitely is quicker at jumping in and saying, really? Really? Is that right? You know, I can have a meltdown at work and bounce back fairly quickly. I've also been quite open with my manager from day one, not to this depth, although he's going to watch the recording and think, oh my word, he didn't tell me that. But I've been quite open with him about what I need from him as a manager, because I don't want to go through working for another manager who treats me badly. And again, it's difficult because I've been around the industry, I've been around doing this for 25 years. I'm quite a strong person and I'm quite able to say, I'm not putting up with that. You know, I realise that that's harder for other people. You know, if you're younger in career or, you know, you don't have that confidence or you don't have the ability to say, I can walk out of a job and walk into another one at some point. Any other questions? Yeah. So when I found my current job, what was it about my hiring manager that made me confident that I could take that job and that they would support me? I don't know. I think I did feel a connection. I felt it was a very human interview. I'd had the tech, obviously, but they were very interested in the stuff that I do outside, very interested in the community and how that works and how that had grown my career, very interested in that me as an individual at my point in a career, not as a well, you do this job role, and that person does that job role, and so therefore you're the same. It was actually, I got told in the interview, we think you'd bring these things to the team that are missing from our other team members because they do other things. And actually that's true. And I've said to him repeatedly, I don't want to do this job because I don't want to work in IT. I want to be a gardener. And he laughs, bless him. But we do different things. And I've said to him, I'm not the most technical person on the team. I don't want to be the most technical person on the team. IT for me is no longer a hobby. I turn my laptop off and I go play on the farm. Some people in this room turn their laptop off, turn their other laptop on and write their own code. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, if that's what makes you happy, that's fine. That's not me. And he was fine with me being me and doing what I needed to do. Yeah. You're welcome. So do I have any tips for being able to take time out and take a step back if I'm feeling stressed? I think it's very hard. Actually, after the question I had in my interview about what makes me stressed, I then got, how do you unstress yourself? And I said, I go out with my chainsaw and I cut trees down because I live on a farm, which is a fairly unusual activity and probably not going to apply to all that many people here. There's all sorts of things like box breathing. Now, I can't do box breathing. You know what box breathing is? That in for so many seconds and then hold and then out for so many seconds and then hold. I can't do that. I start to hyperventilate because I think I'm going to suffocate myself. That doesn't work for me. I also can't meditate. But some people can and it works. So I would say the Mental Health UK report will have a bunch of coping mechanisms in. Go through it and find the one thing that works for you. For me, it's being outside. It's being on the farm, it's telling silly stories about, you know, how's your week been? Wow. So I was looking out the window, I was on a Teams call, I was looking out the window, and the cows have got out, and there's a cow standing at my window. So in my lunch break, when it's chucking it down with rain and blowing a gale, I'm out there lashing cattle gates together because they've knocked the fence over and I can't get it back up again because my husband's away, so this always happens when he's away. And I've put this fence back up, and I walk back in, and I've sat on the Teams call, and my hair's all over the place, and I get, what have you been doing? It's like, well, funny thing is this happened at lunchtime, and I just got this blank look of faces that said, you know, that's not normal, right? And it's like, yeah, but that's the thing I focus on. That's how's your day, or how is your week? I don't talk about work. I talk about the other stuff. You know, in this industry, and we come to these events, and it's like, oh, hi, I'm Steph, what do you do? You know? And we give our job titles. Let's try to think of, actually, what do we do? Well, I try to put gates back up to stop cows escaping. I cut trees down with my chainsaw on a Sunday afternoon. That's what oh, do you mean what I do for a living? Oh, yeah, well, I just do some data stuff. Yeah? Try to focus on the other things that make you you, because you're way more than just your job. Yeah. Cool. Did we have any questions online? I'd probably take them offline anyway, I think, if we did. So, good. Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time this afternoon.